Oh, this is Mr. Hornsby 83. This is the Mr. Hornsby 83 show, and it's been a while since the last time I did a video, which was my Halloween video. I don't know if I did the night before Halloween or if I did it on Halloween, but has been quite a while since last video. So, and a lot of news has really went down. The news about when Tyson Fury and Wilder's going to fight again. Jim Cornett getting removed from NWA Power. AEW NXT Wednesday Night War really heated up, especially the last 2 and 3 weeks. I'm going to show off a few things I picked up, some hauls that I picked up while I've been away. I'm also going to ask you guys a question about something at the end of the video. It's got nothing to do with the contest. It's a different question about, something else. And it involves wrestling figures or whatever, but, also at the end of the video, I will be doing a tribute to my grandma. She passed away a few weeks before, Thanksgiving, and then the week before Thanksgiving, we buried her at the same place where my mom is buried, so I'm going to do a tribute at the end. I just put a picture up of her and not say anything else. But let's get into the first, also, new James Bond trailer, which I'm going to talk about that as well. So let's get into the first set of news. I'm going to, get the wrestling stuff out of the way right off the bat. Except for at the end of the video. But Jim Cornett resigned from NWA Power. I'm also going to talk about I met 2 icons of the wrestling world at a Cyclones game here in over there in Cincinnati. So let's talk about Jim Cornett having to resign from NWA Power. Now, the reason this happened is because Jim Cornett made a somewhat of a racist comment. It was meant to be a joke about hunger or whatever, but it ended up sounding more like a racist joke than a hunger joke, where he talked about Trevor Murdoch and, if he strapped about a bucket of fried chicken on his back and he drove through Ethiopia, people would be chasing him or something like that. I don't know. When I watch NWA Power, I really tune out a lot of stuff Jim Cornette says anyway. Because not only does he sometimes say some stupid stuff, he is a good commentator on that, but then he, takes cheap pots at, AEW and talk about how they're cosplay wrestlers. And the thing about it is, Jim Cornette sits there and he blames the AEW fanboys. He blames NWA. He blamed, the whole world except for himself for the remarks he made. But mostly he was blaming the AEW fanboys. I'm like, dude, really? Are you that freaking delusional that you would think that AEW fanboys would have that much power? And heck, in fact, probably aside from me, some AEW fans don't watch NWA Power. I mean, I watch it because I like the show. I think it's really good. And it's about frickin' time that, Nick Aldis quit ducking James Storm, by the way. I'm going to definitely be tuning in to catch Into the Fire. I might watch it a couple days after it, airs on pay-per-view. But yeah, I felt like Nick Aldis was ducking James Storm the whole time this show's been on there. And he was trying to come up with little plots and little conspiracies to keep the title away from James Storm. But what they call it, the 10 pounds of gold or Old Charlotte or whatever, but it's an old NWA World Heavyweight Championship, which is a nice belt. I like it. I think it's a nice looking belt. Now, maybe when I was younger, I didn't appreciate the look of the belt, but as I've gotten older, I'm like, yeah, I do appreciate the look of the NWA Championship now. Especially when I would see it in TNA a lot, and, when I watched New Japan, before we had to change cable providers, because, Spectrum has gotten to the point to where they're just so ridiculously overpriced on things nowadays. So we had to switch our cable providers, and the cable provider I have now does not carry Access TV, which really irritates me because now Impact's on there, Wow Women of Wrestling, and New Japan, and I can't do those 3 shows anymore. because they are no longer, they don't carry it. So I'm hoping this cable provider I have now ends up putting access on their thing. Now, in their on-demand section, they do have a section for access, but it's really showing the musical stuff that access would show, like I guess on Wednesdays or whatever. So, yeah. But, yeah. To blame the AEW fanboys who probably don't even watch NWA Power, mainly because Cornette was the commentator at the time. You know, that's crazy. And yes, maybe NWA should take some blame for not censoring that out sooner about the freaking, about the whole, you know, remark that Cornette made. They should have censored it as soon as possible. Now, the last episode of NWA Power, he was still on commentary because, like, they taped these months in advance. So before he said that, and before he resigned, he was still on one more show, which they called the season finale this past Tuesday, and that they won't be back until the week after Into the Fire. So next Tuesday there won't be no NWA Power, no new one anyway, but they have found a new commentator to replace Jim Cornette. It's kind of odd because Jim Cornette was more versed in this style of, you know, what they're doing, where it's like, it's a studio wrestling show is pretty much what it is. It's like in a studio in Atlanta, and Jim Cornette was well versed in that more than probably the guy they replaced him with is. So they replaced Jim Cornette with Stu Bennett to be the commentator, alongside Joe Galantine or whatever. It's their main play-by-play guy. I can't think of his last name though. But I think it's an alright move, but I don't know if he'll be able to, you know, be as good as Cornette, aside from the pot shots that Cornette took at AEW. I don't know if he'll be as good as Cornette in, you know, that role of doing commentary for something like a studio show, which is pretty much a throwback to the old school style of studio wrestling back in the days. I think it went on probably around the maybe 50s, 60s, and 70s, and then a little bit into the early 80s, but then it changed to, you know, more, you know, arenas and all that stuff, and, you know, etc., etc., etc. So, yeah, but the fact that he's blaming AEW fanboys, or he's mostly blaming NWA and not really taking the blame for him even making a remark, he should have thought of a different analogy to use. I'm not, you know, going to throw the guy under the bus, despite the fact that I strongly disagree with him about a lot of things. I do agree with him with some things he says about AEW, but a lot of things he says because he just freaking hates the top guys like Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. A lot of the other talent he seems to like a little bit. But, yeah, just because you hate those three guys, and you hate the librarian stuff, and yeah, a lot of the goofy stuff AEW does really, I even critique it sometimes. And I've been an AEW fan since it started October 2nd. But, you know, to blame them fans for that, and for you just to hate the company just because three guys you hate are on it, that you hate with a passion, does not mean you should throw the whole company under the freaking bus. I mean, Jesus. But AEW fans, especially the ones you call fanboys, probably don't even watch NWA Power. They probably don't even know what it is. I mean, like I said, I'm a fan of AEW, but I watch NWA Power too because I like it. And, you know, I know the tradition of NWA and how it pretty much most of the big wrestling companies branch from it. Like, you know, WWE even branched from it. WCW, Impact Wrestling, probably, well, a couple other ones I can't think of. I mean, ECW was like kind of a part of NWA, but yeah. So the fact that Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana has really brung NWA back up to somewhat of a high level, not the high level it was when it first came out years and years ago. Like, I believe a lot of people said 1905 was the first time NWA came out. But, you know... And, you know, a lot of the big companies currently have worked with NWA. I mean, New Japan's worked with them. Ring of Honor's worked with them. I'm hoping that maybe, especially now that Jim Cornette's out of the picture, maybe NWA and, you know, All Elite Wrestling could work together. I'm also hoping New Japan and All Elite Wrestling can eventually work together. Even some Impact wrestlers, you know, even Impact and AEW should work together. But, you know, you never know. But the main reason why I say NWA is because, you know, like I said, a lot of big companies have been tied to the NWA in some way or another. And, you know, AEW wants to become a pretty big company, and it sounds like they want to become as big as WCW was in WCW's prime. Even though there for a while after the Hulk Hogan boom happened and, you know, the new generation and all that, WWF was still getting better ratings than WCW, but you had two big companies on two nationally televised stations, you know, and, you know, they were going neck to neck, and it started in 95, ended in 2001. Well, really it ended in 2000 pretty much, because 99 there were still a little bit of people still kind of switching back and forth to WCW and WWE, even though WWE was killing WCW in the ratings at that time. But 2000 was really the time when that war really ended. 2001 was just a place, early 2001 was just a placeholder until the eventual WWE buying them out. And a lot of that had to do with Bischoff making a lot of mistakes. And, you know, he's even admitted on his show 83 Weeks a lot of the mistakes he's made. And, you know, I could give him credit for that. But, you know, but I'm kind of getting off subject with the freaking Cornette situation. But don't blame anybody else when you say something like that. And if you do get another commentary gig, don't say nothing stupid like that again. Now, you know, NWA did thank Jim Cornette for his contributions for the first, I believe, 9 episodes. But, you know, they pretty much felt like that was a freaking big mistake with him, you know, doing that. And with him not really taking, you know, any of the blame for the stuff he said. What he should have said is, hey, I'm sorry. That was a joke I used years ago. I, you know, thought it was funny. I should have, you know, been more sincere. I should have been more considerate to that situation, and I should have thought of another line to use. That's what he should have said, not the AEW fanboys, they're the reasons why. Or, you know, NWA should have edited it out too. And yeah, they should have edited it out. But, you know, or edited it out sooner. They did pull the episode and re-edit it. But, you know, they should have re-edited it sooner. And all that. So, yeah, Jim Cornette, you know, as much as I don't like how you dog on AEW because you just hate 3 of the top main guys, I gotta say, you've been a pretty good commentator throughout the years. In WWE, you were a great manager back in the day when you were, you know, managing the Midnight Express and all that stuff. But, you know, you of all people should have found a more articulate way to try to get your point about Trevor Murdoch than what you did right there. And don't blame AEW fans, don't blame NWA. Take some of the blame for yourself. Don't be one of those people that like, oh, it's their fault all the way through. Anyway, let's move on from that. Let's talk about the ratings war between NXT and AEW. Now look, the first time NXT beat AEW was a couple weeks ago. That's when they used a lot of the main, like, well, you can't say main rush, but that's when they used a lot of the guys from Raw and SmackDown who are more established than some of the NXT guys. I'll just say that. And, you know, so they won in the ratings against AEW for the first time 2 weeks ago. Now, I kind of figured after last week that, you know, NXT would probably win the ratings again because it was a post SummerSlam. WWE really built up the NXT roster strong. They gave freaking NXT the clean sweep at Survivor Series. And plus the War Game show that was pretty good. I didn't get a chance to see it because my WWE Network was actually stupid. I actually had to watch my WWE Network stuff actually on the WWE site instead of on the WWE Network. So I don't know what's going on with that. My bill was paid and everything. I put in my address, but when I went to put in my password again, because I think like the last payment was a little late, but they get paid. But, you know, when I went to try to put my password in and that, it wouldn't go to the screen where you put your password and your, you know, all that in. So I'm like, God darn it. So I got on the WWE website and I had to watch Survivor Series that way. I'm like, well, I'm not going to waste time on the freaking NXT thing. I'll just freaking see the reviews of it and figure out what's going on there. So, but, you know, I did think they were going to win again last week because it was a post-WrestleMania show. I mean, not WrestleMania. Post-Survivor Series show. It was... The way NXT was built up strong, they probably want to see if maybe somebody from Raw or SmackDown wanted revenge for what happened at Survivor Series, which really nobody showed up from Raw or SmackDown. So, pretty much what Triple H said after Survivor Series pretty much happened. That each show was going to go back to being its own little thing, and that they were going to... You know, NXT was going to stay its own thing. Raw and SmackDown were going to stay their own thing. Speaking of Raw and SmackDown and some big WWE news, I should have mentioned this in the intro when I started the video, but I'm also going to talk about a certain return to WWE backstage that, you know, a lot of people were probably... I'm also going to talk about another return that's supposed to be happening, I guess, this Monday on Raw or either Friday on SmackDown, which is tonight. But I'll talk about those two things real fast, too. But AEW, though, after Wednesday's show, they had a good show. I mean, even the show, the, you know, night before Thanksgiving show, was pretty good. But they had a good show Wednesday, and they won in the ratings again. So NXT has 2 wins, and AEW's got what? I guess you could say 9. Yeah, it's 8 maybe, I don't know. But I think it's 8 or 9. But it was a pretty close margin. Because it was only, what, a 6% difference? I mean, AEW got 8,000, 5,100, and then NXT got 8,000, 4,500 or whatever. So it was a pretty close race this past week, but AEW did eke out the win. And I think one of the big things that really helped it was, you know, when they started the company earlier this year and they were talking about they're going to make women's wrestling matter, they're going to make tag wrestling matter. They really didn't take too much time to build up their women's division. Now, this past week, they took a lot of time to build up the women's division, so they took the time to build up some more of their women's roster. And, you know, Cody had a good promo. Then we had the Jericho promo, which led to him, you know, ending up, he's getting ready to wrestle Jungle Boy on the final episode of AEW Dynamite, which will be December 18th, which is a week before Christmas. So they're going to have that match. I don't know if it's for the AEW Championship or not. They didn't really say. It might end up being for the AEW World Championship. We also got the build up that Moxley and Jericho, Moxley's going to be the next opponent for Jericho for the AEW World Championship. And what I think is they're going to put the belt on Moxley whenever they do their next pay-per-view, whenever they announce their next pay-per-view, which they haven't. I don't know if they're going to announce one for January or they're going to announce one for February or what, but they are building toward Jericho Moxley for a championship. Now, I think Moxley should win and, you know, hold it between February all the way to May. And then Kenny Omega eventually beats Moxley for it. Rather, one of them's going to turn heel. I think Moxley might be a little more over than Omega, so I say turning Omega heel, because really, Omega needs a change anyway. He needs a heel turn, and I feel like if they turn him heel, he could get back to the way he was when he was having all those great matches with Okada and, having all those humps and hurdles he had to go through to actually beat Okada in New Japan. So I feel like turning him heel would be the best thing. And Moxley, he's the top guy. People's gonna cheer him because he came from WWE and he was popular in WWE. Even though with WWE's booking ruined his popularity in WWE, but now that he's back to being a character that he wanted to be, the fans love him even more. So I think Moxley wins. Omega eventually turns heel and tries to take the belt off of Moxley, which he will eventually take it from him, and he'll be the top heel champion. You can also get Pac, who I believe was ranked number 1 in the rankings. I think a couple weeks ago, Pac could finally get a shot at the title, which he's been talking about. He could challenge Moxley for the belt and try to take it from him. And Moxley beats him because, the draw is probably going to eat at Moxley the way it ate at Pac. So, yeah. So Moxley wins. His first opponent would probably be Pac. And then he eventually faces Omega. So, maybe the next All Out is where Omega and Moxley, they go 1 year later. Now the stakes are higher. It's for the AEW World Championship. Even though they didn't get to have that match at All Out, they can have it and, build that story up. Now, there's been rumors that AEW might be considering putting a mid-card title out, which is fine. I think it's a good idea. I would just wait, at least until you're going to have a little bit of a bigger roster. Right now, AEW, everybody's talking about how small their roster is. And you could kind of tell that through the weekly shows and how things are, you could kind of tell that through the weekly shows and that. So, if they start expanding their roster a little bit, not too much, and having too much freaking talent that they don't know what to do with, like WWE does right now, then yeah, expand your roster a little bit, then you can ease your way into a mid-card title. Let's say you have a pretty good-sized roster by the time next All Out comes. You can then have a tournament leading into the next All Out to crown the mid-card champion. Now, there's a few ideas I got for names for these championships. One would be, I guess, the International World Championship. Not World Championship. The AEW International Championship. AEW American Dream title, which, I kind of got this idea from a couple episodes of the Solid Monster Sounds Off because, the Solid Monster was talking about if they do make a title, they should call it the Dream title. And then he was talking to another guy who said, yeah, they should make an American title. And, so what I'm doing, merge the two and just call it the American Dream title out of respect and honor for Dusty Rhodes. Be like, this is the American Dream title. And you could have some of the mid-card guys that you're building have something to fight for, like Shawn Spears. And honestly, I think Shawn Spears would probably be a good guy to be the first one to hold a mid-card title if they do make a mid-card title. So, yeah. But, yeah, the International Championship, I think, would be a good, mid-card title name. American Dream title, that'd be a good, title name. Maybe they go with something like, WWE and New Japan and all that, and have an Intercontinental title, or have a U.S. title, or like Ring of Honor and all that, have a World Television title. I'm sick and tired of so many freaking World Television titles. Or you could just make a lighter weight championship for your lighter weight guys, and then a lot of the other guys are, could be challenging for the World Championship. Now, not all of them's going to win it, because all of them don't deserve to win it, but some of your big stars, and then you can get some bigger feuds. So, yeah, a lighter weight championship might be alright. But if you do a mid-card title, please don't name it television title. I am so sick of hearing the name television title with so many wrestling companies nowadays. There's a ton of world television titles, you know. ECW had a world television title. WCW had a world television. And don't get me wrong, I used to love the name world television title years ago, especially in the middle of the Monday Night Wars, and I felt like it was dumb for WCW to get rid of their world television title for a freaking stupid hardcore belt that WWE, because WWE made a hardcore belt. But that started out as part of a storyline and part of a freaking joke. You know, as a joke belt, and yeah, it became a more prestigious title on that, but you know, Jesus. Even toward the end, it was treated like a joke belt before they finally abolished the hardcore title. So, hopefully, you know, no more world television titles. You know, you could even do a European title. You know, you could do some other freaking mid-card title name. A global title would be a nice name for a freaking mid-card title, but please, no more television titles. As much as I loved the world television title back in the day, and especially in WCW, you know, there's so many freaking world television titles out there nowadays. It's just like, God. And then, you know, you think about the freaking never open weight title in New Japan. That's kind of a, you know, TV title, but it's not really. It's, you know. So even using names that maybe some Japans use, like some of the Japanese wrestling use, like never open weight would be pretty cool, I think. But yeah, no more world television title thing. Because Ring of Honor's got a world television title. There for a while, Impact had a world television title, which went through 50,000 different name changes, and it was finally called the King of the Mountain title, which was the dumbest mid-card title name ever. But then again, you talk world, there's a title Universal Champion. By the way, I'm going to speak about that real quick too. So we had belt swaps for the first time for this draft. For this second brand split, first time ever, we have had belt swaps. The WWE Championship is now on Raw, which Brock Lesnar has. And the Universal title is now on SmackDown, which Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, has. But he's also coming out with this freaking Leatherface made freaking belt. As the Fiend, I guess. And he's going to hold the blue Universal title. I like how the Universal title looks now. It looks way better than what it did when it was red. I mean, I like what they did with that belt. It looks like a, you know, nice, prestigious belt now. Unlike it did when it was on a red strap. But, you know, it's still, you got some problems with the blue strap belt. But, you know, and usually sometimes blue strap belts are usually, you know, temporarily. But, you know, I like what the Universal title looks like now. It looks like a nice, prestigious championship that Roman Reigns is probably going to win at WrestleMania Pirate Ship. But, you know, at least it still looks nice. Anyway, now let's jump into the returns, and then I'll be done with the rest of the stuff, and then I'll talk about a couple more things, and then I will end this video, because this video is probably, let me see how long it's been so far. It's been 28 minutes. So, one of the biggest names in wrestling, one of the hottest free agents in wrestling, is now somewhat back with WWE. But I say somewhat because they're not really back with WWE. They just work for a show on Fox that talks about WWE stuff. And I'm talking about CM Punk, Phil Brooks. He came back. All the crap he was talking about WWE prior, I mean, after he left WWE, and then, you know, how much he was, you know, he would never work with WWE again. Then he started changing his tone and blah, 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 and, you know, it's like, oh, okay, you know, yeah, CM Punk. And then, you know, then he sat there and came up with a BS story because, I don't know if it's BS or not, it could be, it may not be, maybe, you know, AEW just got, you know, upset because Punk exposed him for this, but, you know, it sounds like pretty much that it was a BS storyline, because I think one of the, you know, dirt sheet guys reported that, you know, what CM Punk said wasn't true is that AEW kept texting him with contract deals and all that, but they were saying no, we didn't. And then some like I said, some kind of dirt sheet page, which I really don't pay attention to a lot of dirt sheet pages. Said, no, AEW said that wasn't true, and Cody, said they tried talking to him in person, and he's like, oh, I'm just not into being a wrestler no more, and all that, and, and if that's the case, why frickin' throw a company under the bus and say, oh, they were texting me and that? Why didn't you just say, I don't want to wrestle no more? I don't want to be a part of WWE. I don't want to be a part of AEW. I don't want to be a part of Ring of Honor. I don't want to be a part of New Japan. I don't want to be a part of Impact Wrestling. I don't want to be a part of, all the wrestling promotions that are out there. I don't want to be a part of NWA Power. Yeah, so, instead of saying, oh, they sent me contract offers, through text message. But yes, CM Punk did return on WWE Backstage. Now, I haven't watched too much Backstage. I watched first, the preview show I thought was alright. Then I watched one other show, I think it was like a week or so after the CM Punk return, and I did not watch the one where CM Punk was on it and actually returned. So really, I didn't know about the CM Punk stuff until I watched reviews and that. Honestly, except for NXT and SmackDown, I really don't care to watch much anymore. Now look, SmackDown's not that good. I might end up not watching SmackDown no more. Plus, usually it's family movie night with me, my wife, and kids. But, but I feel like I can sit through a SmackDown show and not want to frickin' just, bang my head against the wall after I would watch a Raw. So, I would prefer watching SmackDown. Yeah, it's not as good as it was when they started on, the whole Tuesday live thing, and then they did the second brand split when that started and all that. But, I'll still watch it. I can still find a few things that are entertaining about that show than I can a Raw show. Backstage, like I said, I thought it was alright when I first watched it. One thing I did like was the promo school, even though, the LeVar Arrington one, I felt like, LeVar Arrington delivered a good promo, but they all gave it a bad grade. I'm like, what? Yeah, he had a good promo. But anyway, I digress from that. But CM Punk is back. There's a possibility he might do a like 1 or 2 matches for WWE if they can work out a pretty good deal, and if Punk's interested in a match that he thinks would be a good match, like, maybe an Undertaker rematch, which I don't think anybody wants to see anybody wrestle Undertaker anymore, or if it's a Punk versus Bryan match, or, Punk versus Seth Rollins match, maybe a Punk versus Roman Reigns he might be interested in, you never know, maybe a rematch with Brock Lesnar, but, yeah. So, I guess it's good for WWE Backstage to get CM Punk back. He's going to be on there Tuesday. I might watch it since I didn't watch the first one he came back on. So, I might watch it Tuesday for a few and then probably go to bed. What else? Oh, yeah, John Morrison returned to WWE as well. And why he decided to do that, it makes no sense to me, because he probably would have been better utilized in All Elite Wrestling instead of, WWE. We'll see how things go. Maybe he'll sign a, 5-year contract, and, after he signed a 5-year contract, even though they didn't use him, and then they continue not to use him, right, or use him at all, then he will, then maybe he'll want out of his contract, like, Mike Kanellis. Oh, I wasn't being used before, but I'm going to sign a new 5-year deal, but then I'm going to go back on social media and complain, even though I signed a new 5-year deal, and I went back to not being used. I got used, 1-2 weeks after my first 5-year deal was signed, and now I want to get out of it because I was dumb enough to sign it in the first place, but yeah, okay. And I was a fan of Mike Kanellis when he was in Ring of Honor, and I think he was dumb to re-sign with WWE for 5 freaking years when you weren't being utilized before, and then when you do sign a deal, you get freaking publicly buried, and they use your own wife to bury you. And, Now you're like, oh, I went out of my contract. Well, then you shouldn't have signed a 5-year deal. How stupid are you? I mean, honestly. If I was a wrestler, which I, had aspirations and dreams to be, but you know what? I got older, I had a family, I had a chance to wrestle for Christian Wrestling Entertainment, but then that would have took me away from my family. My kids were still pretty young at that time. And I was in really good shape, which I'm also going to talk about that in a minute. I was in really good shape, so I could have done, the wrestling and all that. But I did not want to be away from my kids. I did not want to be away from my wife, being on the road for Christian Wrestling Entertainment. And plus, I wouldn't have been able to, handle transportation most of the time for that company. So, I decided if I didn't have a family, I would have went for it. But, my family was more important to me than anything else, even a childhood dream. So, that's what I chose. I chose my family. And I don't regret that choice at all. But, come on, Tiger, get. Alright. But, yeah. So, anyway, if I was wrestling for WWE and I wasn't getting utilized, and when I did get utilized, I was getting buried by people, then if they came with me with a 5-year contract, I'd be like, nope, I ain't signing that. The smartest guy that did anything was Dean Ambrose, a.k.a. John Moxley. He said, you know what? I'm going to let my contract play out. I'm going to find a reason for them not to try to add some more time. And I'm going to leave and go somewhere else where I could be creatively free, which is what happened. He went to AEW, and look how good he's doing now. And he's about possibly to become the second AEW World Champion. So, yeah. I think I think he was smart. And Sean Spears and Dustin, they asked out their contracts and they got out, but, WWE didn't think they were going to go to AEW, but they did go there. And honestly, it seems like, kind of like when he went to WWF in 95, Dustin Rhodes is having a career renaissance. Because prior to the, Goldust character that he did when he first came to the WWF, Dustin's career was squandering in WCW. He went to WWF, became Goldust, had a good career, and then, he ended up doing the same thing he was doing in WCW. His career was squandering, so he comes back to AEW, he leaves WWF, goes to AEW, and having another career renaissance. Also, one more thing I gotta say before I jump off the wrestling stuff. The Rock and Roll Express just won the NWA Tag Team Championships on the most recent episode of NWA Power. And I'm like, oh my God, why? These guys are old. They should have put over the freaking wild cards, not win the titles from them. But that was probably something that was put in their contract by NWA to get them to sign. Because, prior to that, they had made a couple Impact appearances on TNT. I mean, not Impact, AEW. They made a couple AEW appearances on TNT. I mean, Ricky Morton even took a bump from Proud and Powerful. And, but for them to win the NWA Tag Team titles after just coming back, now, yeah, you could have went on a nostalgia run down the road with that, but right when they come back, you're like, oh yeah, the team we've built up as our top tag team has now lost to a team that has wrestled for years, and I thought that was a bad decision by NWA this past week, but yeah, that's the only I'd have to say. Get away from that. That's the only bad decision I'd have to say they had. Get away from my consoles. Tiger, don't make me get up. Get. Go lay down. Go lay down. Go lay down. You're being bad right now. Go lay down. Anyway, the Rock and Roll Express. The Dinosaurs have won the tag titles. No, actually, I got a lot of respect for them. As long as they've wrestled Even though they're both not in the shape they was when they first started back in the day, they still can wrestle pretty good. The same with Jericho, man. I think Jericho started in like the mid 90s and, wrestled all the way up to today. But, so yeah. Can't believe they won the titles, though. I think down the road, if you want to do something to build them up for a nostalgic act real quick and then eventually have Wildcard win the belts back, that would have been fine. But their first match back and they beat the freaking Wildcard and they hadn't wrestled for NWA Power or earned any title shots or anything and they're right up there. I'm like, dude, that's ridiculous. But, a lot of wrestling sometimes makes some bad booking decisions. Even if they are good wrestling, like NWA or AEW, or when WWE was good, they made some bad booking decisions when they were still good. But, yeah. I mean, it's just crazy to see those guys wrestling. And they can still wrestle pretty good for, how old they are. But, Jesus, man. And to stay healthy as long as they have, wow, that's also a good, thing. But, alright. Now to the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury 2. I'm guessing, I did not get to see it, but I'm guessing Wilder retained the World Championship, which I kind of figured he would because he already beat Ortiz once, knocked the dude out. And, but now he's taking on Fury again, and I honestly feel like maybe Fury gets him this time. And if not, I'm still going to hold off on singing Wilder's praises. I might give him a little more credit to being a little bit more better boxer than what I thought he was. Like I did when he first took on, Ortiz the first time. But if he beats Fury, I will give him a little more credit, but I'm still not giving him more credit until he goes and he beats the guy that beat Joshua, which I believe, Andy Ruiz. If he goes and he beats Andy Ruiz after he beats Fury, then I'll freaking call him the most legendary boxer. Well, I'm not going to say most legendary, but I will put him up there with legendary boxers such as Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, Sugar Ray Leonard, as much as I didn't like him, Floyd Mayweather Jr., and all the other great boxers. Did I say Mike Tyson? Yeah, I think I said Mike Tyson. I'll put him up there with those guys. Lennox Lewis. Oh, yep. He's up there with all those guys. But that he has to beat Fury, and then he has to beat Ruiz for the rest of those world championships. World heavyweight championships. If he beats Fury, and then he wins the rest of those world heavyweight championships, then I'll be like, yep, I'll sing the praises of freaking Deontay Wilder. Just like when LeBron James can win a championship without a superstar, I'll sing the praises of LeBron James. But, that's neither here or there. So, what else did I have to talk about? I don't know. This video's been pretty long, though. Almost probably as long as a live stream so far. Trying to think. Spent so much time on the wrestling stuff and that. I think I kind of cut out some of the things. But anyway. I guess I'll get to some hauls that I've picked up recently. Oh, a couple of those things I didn't pick up myself. They were bought for me, but a couple of these things I did buy for myself. So, let's get into a couple of the new retro games I got, and I had to deplete my my Nintendo collection in that. But first off, Batman Returns for Sega Genesis. I wanted to get this game for a lot of reasons. I like the Batman Returns movie. I have the first game for Nintendo, and I heard the Batman Returns game was good, so I'm like, well, I'm not going to say good, but I heard it wasn't a terrible game, so I went ahead and got it. And I also got this for Batman Month, too, because I'm going to bring back Batman Month this year. Next up, and I'm hoping this is the right Power Ranger game I got, but Mighty Morphin Power Rangers I'm hoping, yeah, the case is bad, you know, nostalgic. It was the time I didn't have much store credit left, so I had to get by the cheaper version. So, yeah. There was a cleaner, you know, covering of this, and I'm hoping this is the one I'm hoping it is. The one that had the case that had the Green Ranger on the front, so I'm hoping that's what this one is. And I'm hoping it's not the one I had for Super that I played a couple months ago, because I will be doing a playthrough of it, if it is the one I'm hoping it is. I got this game because last week I was talking about how I used to have this game and I had fun playing it, and you know, I was watching Mickey Mouse's Clubhouse or something on Disney XD, and I was telling my brother-in-law I had this game, but I got this Mickey Mouse game here for Super. I just went and picked it up like last Saturday. I'm gonna play it today, and finally, for Sega and Super Nintendo games, I got the greatest basketball game ever, even though I saw another version of this at arcade, and, you know, that case looked more cooler than this one, but NBA Jam. The greatest basketball game ever. You know, I always enjoyed those games. NBA Jam. I used to love playing them as a kid. And ever since I've gotten it, I've played it, and I had a fun time playing it. I even played it on Thanksgiving, and it was fun. Alright, so here's what I got for current. Oh, crap. Well, I got one current game and 2 retro games that, you know, it's for another certain game month too, but Madden 20, I really wanted it, so I took some of my Xbox One games I don't play anymore, or ones that were old, and I took some accessories for a current console. Also sold it for store credit at GameStop. Only got this game for $10 because the store credit pretty much covered the biggest part of it. I got the used version, but you know, still, only got it. I got it for $10, which was a good deal for this game. And these next 2 are retro games as well. One's for PlayStation 2, one's for PlayStation. And I did deplete, like I said, a couple of my other collection from some of my other retro consoles. SmackDown, just bring it. I believe this was the first WWF game. Because after that, we had SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, and then, actually it might have been SmackDown 2 was the second game for that, but I think this was the first game for that, but I think this was it. Now, I wanted to pick up WCW NWO versus the World, but the problem was the casing was on the thing, but it was not the game. It was Gecko game. I forgot. Yeah. Or it was Gex or something. I forgot what that freaking game's called. I remember the game, but I just can't remember what it's called. So, yeah. I think it was Rax or Gax or something. Yeah, it might have been Gax. I don't know. But, yeah. And, which I'll be playing these for Wrestle Game Mania this year. I got the very first SmackDown game ever for PlayStation. Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. Alright, and 2 more things I'm going to show off here. First off, you know, at first I was not going to get these because I only wanted to collect NECA figures and that. And, you know, yeah, I made an exception for the Mr. Sinister Marvel Legends figure. Well, I also kind of made an exception for this guy. Picked up the Lightning Collection Lord Zed. Actually, I think my father-in-law got it for me. The Lightning Collection Lord Zed. Looks awesome. I heard a lot of great reviews about this figure. It was so hard to find for a long time, but I found it at JCPenney. And I know Comic the Games had it as well, but they were probably sold out by that point. And, you know, got this White Ranger from the Lightning Collection. Now, I also did get a Doggy Kruger for Lightning Collection, which I showed off on my Trigen business page on Facebook. I showed that off, and I also had those one things that the re-releases of the, you know, Rangers where you could flip their head to the unmorphed head, and then you could flip their head to the morphed head. I had those for sale for Trigen Toys as well, so if you want to check those out, check those out. Doggy Kruger, and you know, and like I said when I showed off the Doggy Kruger, I'm like, you know, because it comes with an unmasked head. I'm like, I don't think they ever showed Doggy Kruger with an unmorphed head while he was in the Shadow Ranger suit. I think he only like had his morphed head, but you know, it's still a cool accessory to go with it. I will be back in the shack, and I will end this video. You freaking dogs, I swear. Uh, 51 minutes, wow. Okay, so one more thing before I end. I did, you know, decide what I'm going to have as the collectible figure reward for the contest. I just hope GameStop still has it when I go to buy the reward for the contest. But, you know, I will reveal that in my kind of, you know, vlog video I will have announcing when I will fully return on YouTube. And, you know, I will talk about that when I get that reward, if they still have it around the time I go to get it. Now, if you don't remember, the question is, in my opinion, which I was supposed to add another hint to the fan page, which I got so much into all the other big stories that were going on, I could not, I totally forgot to freaking add that. So, you know, so the question again, in my opinion, there's a movie in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and there's a movie in the Halloween franchise that I feel is overrated. And I'm gonna, you know, add this hint here, I guess. I think I added it when I did the Halloween episode, but they were the 7th entry in both franchises. And they had a returning character from the first one. Now, I done said 2 people are, you know, excluded from the contest, which is my friend Heavy Metal Turtle. They will be back in the contest next year, but I wanted to get a different winner this year. And I really want to see how much a lot of my subscribers pay attention. And my friend Matt, because they both won the first 2 contests I did. So, you know, even though Heavy Metal Turtle not going to be happy with the freaking reward that I'm going to be giving to whoever wins this contest, because I'm pretty sure he would want it. But, you know, I, you know, have to exclude him and my friend Matt, because I want to see if all my other subscribers actually pay attention to some of the things I've said either on my Facebook fan page or here on YouTube about these things. But I've given you a pretty clear-cut, 2 pretty clear-cut hints that they were the 7th entry in both franchises, and they had returning characters from the first one. So, with that being said, like I said, you know, it's been a rough week this past week. I've had issues with people and, you know, over stupid stuff, and I really have been annoyed a lot this week. And, you know, several weeks ago, my grandma passed away. I was very close to my grandma. I said a lot of, you know, I said a a couple things about some good memories I had with my grandma. When she passed, we buried her the week before Thanksgiving. And, you know, so I wanted to do a little bit of a tribute. I don't really have a song to play at the end. I'm just going to put her picture in front of the camera for a few. Then I'm going to end this video. So let me know what your thoughts are on all the stories I just covered today. What y'all think of the haul I picked up today. Or, well, not today. I picked them up a while back since I've been off YouTube. So what do you think about the hauls I picked up? What's your feelings about, you know, the whole Jim Cornett situation, the whole mid-card situation, and all that stuff? And let me know in the comments. Please like this video, subscribe for more. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. Hornsby83 show, and on Twitter at Mr. Hornsby83. Sorry, and follow me on Facebook on my Trigens business page and my Facebook fan page, which is also called the Mr. Hornsby 83 Show. But catch you guys later, and peace out. And, you know, gotta say one thing before I do put this up. You know, goodbye, Grandma. I love you and miss you, and I can't wait till the day I see you again in heaven. But, yeah.